Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for our weekly all-conference chat this week. I am filling in as your host today for Molly Carlson, our conference minister, who is in Cleveland this week for the Council of Conference Ministers. And today we continue our conversation about our various positions within the Illinois Conference staff. We've recently had a lot of changes in terms of who is on staff and what those positions are. So we are taking these first few months this year to kind of go over these one by one. Today, we're going to be talking about all three of our T-PIRC positions, which is Thriving Pastors and Revitalizing Congregations. Melody Seaton will share a little bit more about what T-PIRC is as well. And you'll get to hear a little bit about what each of our three T-PIRC staff members do. And before we get started and I hand things over to Melody, I'm going to share a brief devotion, and what I'm reading is from this book called A Rhythm of Prayer, which has become one of my favorite books, and it's edited by Sarah Bessey. But this one entry really struck me, especially as we're talking about all of these staff positions and thinking about all the changes we've been going through. And this is called A Prayer Against Efficiency, and it's by Misha Boyett. O God, beyond time, beyond the number line, the hourglass, beyond moons that wax and wane and waves that push and pull along our fragile ground. O God, beyond days and weeks and months, God uncontained by our 24 hours, free of our borders and yet still within them. God who is here, God of the meetings, the emails, the PTA, the neck ache, the child crying over homework, the car leaking oil, the head lice and the sheets to wash. O God of the groceries and the knife against the butcher block moving slow across the cucumber. God of the sun's path across a sky we cannot reach. God of midday, God of afternoons and the laughter of children, the clap of a ball on concrete. God of evening color and the muted spread of light in the clouds as the night leaks in. God in the hand I hold. God of the one I love. God beyond time, we come to you pulled by the bullet points in our calendars, by the titles we keep beside our names, by the goals we've charted and the accomplishments we list to define our value. You see each image we upload to our pocket screens, altered, filtered, and pinned to virtual walls. You, God, touch our distortions and soothe the edges of our efficiency, and only you can make us real. God, beyond the boxes we build to contain our lives, the hours we track and tally. God, outside of time, yet here. Come to us, relieve our ragged breaths, slow our steps, relax the red lines that spike in our brains. Tell us what is true. Show us how time rolls like calm water. Let us cup it quiet in our hands. God, teach us to pause in this moment, to tuck ourselves into the curve of your slow arm, that we may know the miracle of now, the gift of this moment, you beside and beyond us, welcoming us outside of all we measure and standing with us in it. May we see the goodness of our still hours and days, sunrises, sunsets, and the darkness where our rest is found. Order us, that we may stand within time holding your hand, that we may know we are enough, not because of what we make of these hours, but because within these hours, with you, we are being made. And this struck me for a number of reasons, but the few thoughts I want to offer you today as we are nearing the end of going over all of these various positions within the Illinois Conference is to remember not just about our staff, but the staff in your churches and for yourselves that our productivity and our efficiency are not what make us lovable by God, that we are loved simply by being here. And to also remind you that we are all in this transition together. We are all learning our new roles. We are all going through these changes. And to remember the people behind the job descriptions, the people behind these roles, and remember that they need rest and time with God and time for their soul just as much as anyone else. So remember, we are all in this together. We are all learning and growing together. And thank you for your patience and understanding with us as we settle into these new roles and new positions. And with that being said, I'm going to hand things over to Melody Seaton, who is our new T-PIRC program director, and she will share a little bit about what T-PIRC is and then talk about her role, and then I'll let Melody introduce you to our other two T-PIRC staff members so that they can talk to you about what it is they do.
Thank you so very much, Sarah, and good evening to everybody. As Sarah said, I'm Melody Seaton. I am the T-PIRC project director. And for those that don't know, I'm also the pastor of Grace United Church of Christ in Sauk Village, Illinois. So basically, I have been entrusted with the responsibility of overseeing and promoting the grant for T-PIRC as it was proposed. That has I started at the end of January, and so I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of catching up with things that have been going on, looking at the program as it was written, as it evolved, and what needs to happen going forth in the remainder of it. So T-PIRC. It seemed one of the things that I was approached with is that there was some confusion possibly about what it actually meant. It means thriving pastors in revitalizing congregations. And it was probably, David and I talked at length about what he was thinking even before he retired, and once again, since he has retired. And it was more to me an understanding that if the pastor of the church is energized, is poured into, that pastor can in turn do the same for the congregants. And that's about the simplest way that I can put it. I think that there was some confusion about there were going to be this, I don't know, maybe some how-tos on things, and it's certainly partly that. But it's an understanding that if the pastor is to lead the congregation, they've got to be in a certain mindset. They've got to be equipped with particular information and methodologies in order to help the congregation move forward with the vision that God has given for each of them. So what T-PIRC hopes to accomplish is to assist in that. We're right now meeting everybody that's involved in it, the coaches, the facilitators, and most importantly, the pastors and the members, the lay team members of the cohorts. Presently, there are about 37 churches that are involved. And again, we're trying to make contact with all of them through meetings that we're having. We want to do a lot of listening in these first meetings. We want to hear what has been good for you, what has been challenging for you. And then that will help us craft future meetings, as well as the education summit that will be coming up September 16th and September 17th. Friday, September 16th, and Saturday, September 17th. And yes, someone asked me the other day whether or not it was going to be on Zoom. And yes, it will be on Zoom. And I know I'm getting all the faces and the looks. Next year, we're coming out. We're going to come out. But this year, in order to truly continue being safe. We know what everybody is saying, but as someone mentioned earlier about what's going on now, some of what, and this is just my personal opinion, some of the statements that are being made about how we should move forward might very well be political as well. And that's just my personal feeling. So we still have to remain concerned about our neighbor. That's one of the commandments. And in order to be concerned about our neighbor, we want to keep that distance for right now. But I do promise you this, we are going to try and make it as interactive as possible. And with the help of the great Sarah, we are working on that now as we speak, working on things to involve you in it, and so that you don't feel like somebody, you're just watching television or something. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mars Rivera, the project coordinator.
Thanks, Melody. Hi, everyone. My name is Mars Rivera. I'm the project coordinator for the T-PIRC program. I'm a member at the Philippine American Ecumenical Church in Chicago, which is about 3 miles from Wrigley Field. And we had been part of the T-PIRC program, I want to say since 2019, since it started. So I'm familiar with, just being a participant in the program, and I'm excited to kind of be on the other side and help things run. At a high level, just my responsibilities are pretty true to the title. Really coordinating, helping us stay organized, just in our operations and in the communication with everybody involved. So all of the churches, like Melody had said, the pastors and the lay leaders, as well as the coaches and the facilitators. And some specifics that I'll be particularly responsible for are just helping with organizing the details around that annual learning summit, helping coordinate the payroll for our coaches and for our CCOP facilitators, and just keeping our information of participants up to date so that when we do communicate with people, we are getting the information out to the right people, so that everybody involved with the program feels that they're heard and not like really left out of the conversation in anything that we do. But yeah, that's kind of what I have, a little spiel about the coordinator overview. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to Melody.
Thank you. And I forgot to say that Mars and Kathy and myself, we are like a team made in heaven. I'm very, very grateful to have them as a part of this team. We meet weekly. Sometimes we have to meet more than that because this is new to all of us, again, as Sarah said, but we're enjoying the learning that is coming with this and the brainstorming and all of those kind of things. So Kathy is on the line, but she's on the phone. So I'm going to introduce Kathy Brown, the administrative assistant for T-PIRC. Kathy, are you here?
Okay, I'm there. I had to unmute my phone. So apologies for not being able to be on camera, but as Reverend Murph and the other gentleman was saying earlier, these cars are way too smart. So it won't allow you to do what you should not do. So so I am the administrative assistant for T-PIRC. I assist Reverend Melody and Mars with whatever they need. I did join T-PIRC a year ago, after I think Priscilla left, and then I was assisting Reverend Michelle Hughes. I was still in the learning curve, which I'm still learning now. However, with Reverend Melody and Mars, I'm pretty much off first base now and understand the program much, much more now. I think it's an awesome program. I think the churches, the pastors, lay people, it's a great opportunity for everybody to learn something and learn from each other. And so that's it. So my job is just to support the team, and we are a dynamic triplet right now. So that's my responsibility, just to support Reverend Mel and Mars in making this program a success for what it was written to be. Reverend Melody?
Thank you so very much, Kathy. I appreciate you. I know that the timing was a little off, but I appreciate you. Before we open it up for questions, I would like to also tell you a little bit more about the summit. I was personally on a webinar entitled The State of Your Church. And also I was on the Lilly Foundation, who has funded this grant. They had a workshop for 3 days. And the theme across both of these is sustainability. That seems to be a word that people are using. Now, of course, it meant something pre-COVID, but it certainly means something now. And it is something that I would like to adopt for our theme. The title of the summit for right now, and it's still a work in progress, so you might see something different later, but actually the title is Come, Seek, and Find. I believe that's Matthew 7 and 8, where Jesus says, ask, knock, and you will find. I think that some people, again, like I said, were expecting something, but not understanding that even in the midst of what they did receive, they got something else. And I can talk a little bit more about that later. But anyway, the theme is sustainability, and it's going to be centered around 4 topics: sustaining spirit, sustaining health, sustaining finances, and sustaining relationships. And in relationships, we're going to talk about, evangelizing, discipleship, as well as membership. How do we sustain the relationships that we have? The relationships that might have not come back to the fold as of yet, and the relationships that are waiting to be invited into our churches. So with that said, Sarah, I can give it back to you.
Thank you, Melody, Mars, and Kathy, and for taking the time to be here today. At this point in time, we will open it up for questions. If you have questions about the TPIRC program in general, or about what any one of the particular staff people do in their role, any of those questions are more than welcome. Or if you have other general questions about anything. And Dan, I see you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I do. Melody, thank you. I had to step out when you were talking, so I apologize for that. But I have a question about those who are currently supposed to be in it or not. I was contacted last summer, and Pilgrim Faith decided that they would explore that relationship. And then, and I did do the summit in September, but then I didn't hear from Michelle anymore. And we never paid the $500, but then I was never asked for it either. And so I'm not sure where you are with all that. And, if we are in the program or if we're not in the program, and how I should proceed. And I didn't start with the TPIRC when they first got their money. It was sort of it was like a year and a half, 2 years later. And so, and I wasn't sure how that was all moving through, and whether or not I should continue being concerned about this, or if there's a new process now that we need to do to re-enter in if we feel like we need to do that. So that's my question, more clarification.
Well, thank you so very much. And I do apologize. A lot of information was given to me, and I was certainly trying to get through all of it, but the list that we had, unfortunately, did not have your church on it. It's nothing personal. We were just pulling information from different places. And I think part of the issue might have been that we moved from Google to Outlook. And there were documents that Kathy shared with me. There were documents that were on the drive that she had not been able to retrieve, okay? So anyway, yes, you are certainly welcome to be in the program. And I am so very sorry that we, missed you. What we would like to do is get your information. And do you have a team assembled already?
Well, I did sort of, but
Okay.
then I mean, I had other things that I had to deal with, and so
Sure,
I knew there
sure.
were changes with Michelle and everything, so I just didn't make it a priority, and so we kind of let things go. But yeah, we could probably do that again, but I guess I need to know the expectations now, in that they've changed.
No, not particularly. The cohort meetings are where the pastor and the lay team members will join us. We have already started meeting with cohorts that we had information for, and we have another one coming up on the 22nd of this month, which is a Tuesday at 6:30. And if you all are able to make that, fine. If not, then we will personally talk to you and your group about, what information we shared with them. The program is basically the same. We're just trying to figure out additional ways to implement this whole idea of resourcing the pastors so that they can resource the congregations. Now, the pastors also have the option of having a coach, as well as being a part of a peer group, a clergy community of practice group, and that's separate. The cohort group is what you would have with the lay team members. So if you could put your email address in the chat, then we will definitely get in touch with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will do that. I'll send it to you directly, Melody.
Okay, that's fine. Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Make that all public.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Jim Powers out at Spring Creek in Rockford. What are the types of things that you are bringing to the pastors in resourcing them? Could you be more specific about that, just to give us an idea in terms of that? As well as, maybe it's been a while since I was familiar with it. Could you give us an overview of the program itself, plus how the resourcing takes place?
Okay. So it is a program that was designed to give pastors resources that will help them in turn be able to be, I don't want to say better in their congregations, but certainly lead their congregations in ways that are beneficial for that particular branch. The coaching helps in one regard, because some pastors will have particular things that they're needing to have help with. The peer groups also help. Now, in terms of your question about what particular resources that we have for the congregations, again, we just started at the end of January. And so we're still trying to find out from the congregations what it is that they need. That was the purpose for the cohort meetings in this month of March, getting an idea of what they need, because what they needed in 2019 when this grant was written probably is not the same thing, what they needed in 2020 or even last year. So I've read materials, I've read evaluations that Michelle collected, and her own comments about things, but specific things I can't speak to that right now because we're still trying to get information.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Harriet?
Can you speak generally to the overall program in terms of how COVID, it might have been affected by COVID, specifically, as I understand it, the million plus came for a 5-year program for 40 or 45 churches, and there aren't that many participating. And will it go beyond 5 years, or? We want to balance the budget in our relationship to Lily.
Sure. One of the conversations that we had during the Lilly Foundation workshop was what churches would do, because the churches across the country were certainly affected by COVID. And so there is a possibility that the program will go beyond the time that was, initially established. Certainly COVID has not caused as much of an expense because everything has been primarily on Zoom. But in case people are not aware, the coaches and facilitators also are paid for their services with pastors. Pastors are entitled to at least 10 coaching sessions. Sometimes they will involve their churches in those coaching sessions. The facilitators are also paid for the groups that they meet with. So expenses are still coming, but you're right, not as much as like the year we had the event in Peoria. Did I answer your question, Harriet?
I think the point is that it's still fluid. It's out. We don't know yet. Yeah. So, but I thank you for addressing that. I had another question on the summit when you mentioned the Lilly workshop. I did not go to that one. I actually found the summit quite good. I don't know that my opinion is universal, but they were available recorded for a while, and is it 6 months? Are they still available? The workshops still available, the recording or not?
That's a question.
With this
Sarah would have to
Sarah,
answer.
perhaps.
It's possible there's a link somewhere on the website still, but what specific event were you looking for? Because I can look and see, but I'm not positive.
I guess I could kind of go back.
Are you thinking about the one that was the most recent one?
Yes, well, the one where the Building and Loan Fund, they really did a
Yes,
lot.
I believe, if I recall correctly, so that one, I believe anyone who signed up to participate, I believe they said the recordings were going to be available for 6 months afterwards.
That's what I think.
So I don't know if that's
right at the end of it.
Yeah, that 6 months. If it's not up, it will be up soon. Any other questions about TPIRC in general, or the Lilly grant, or what specifically any of our TPIRC staff do?
Naturally, I have more questions.
Ask away, Harriet.
I usually do. One kind of distinguished the Mars accountabilities from Reverend Melodies. And I is it Karen that
Kathy.
Sorry, Kathy kind of keeps track of totaling everything and the hours and the budget and sending off the details to Keith so he can cut a check or something like that.
Okay, as the director, I basically manage all the moving parts to.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky me. And there are a lot of moving parts. And Mars and I work the same amount of time. It is a part-time position, but he kind of offsets. He gave you some of the specifics about what he does in terms of making sure that the coaches get paid and kind of coordinating that particular piece. But we both kind of, and also assisting with the summit, but he helps with everything, anything that I need some assistance with. So basically I'm overseeing all of the different parts of it, all the meetings that have to happen with the participants as well as the conference. And he's assisting with that. And then Kathy is assisting with that.
So in a sense, you have the broader vision and Mars has the details to make it happen.
That's a good way to put it.
What Can you speak to the participants who began active but are no longer active? What could we do to support them? What can the program do to support them?
Okay, so there were 38 churches on the list that I received. And one of them let me know that they had expressed an interest to no longer be a part of it last year. So we made a note of that. Again, I just started at the end of January. I'm not quite sure if that's the end of January and it is the middle of March. And so we've accomplished a lot in that short period of time, but basically we're trying to catch up and find out who is who, whether the list that we received are accurate, whether people are actually a part of it. So it's hard for me to speak to how I can support when I don't know all of who those people are. We scheduled 3 meetings for this month, which was really aggressive, to offer options to the cohort churches that we had a list, names for. We sent out information. We called churches where we did not hear from them, just to make sure they got the email, but to also understand everybody doesn't do email as regularly. And so far, we've had 2 of the 3 meetings. And so I think we have probably touched base with about maybe 10 churches in those 2 meetings. The meeting that's coming up on the 22nd will be a lot larger than the others. And that probably is about maybe 7 or 8 more churches. So once we get beyond that, then we're going to say, okay, we didn't hear from church A, church B, and all of that. And then we will begin to reach out to them personally to find out if they're still interested and how we can be of assistance to them.
For those of you who are more visual learners and processors, I just dropped a document into the chat on Zoom that has the 3 job descriptions. If you process things better by reading them yourself instead of hearing them, you can read the details to kind of understand the differences between the 3 positions as well. And as Melody said, they're all part-time. So these aren't full-time positions. This is just part of what they do.
Right.
Jim Powers, I have a question again about, I don't know what to call it, the evaluative component. How is Lily going to evaluate the success of the program? Will there be revitalized congregations? How is that evaluated? With thriving, how is all that going to be evaluated, Melody? Do you have, I know you're just new to all of that, but I'd be interested in what, has come through to you already.
Mm-hmm. So the evaluative part is actually a part of Mars' responsibility. However, I have taken the leadership in trying to find out exactly what that is. When I was on the workshop with the Lilly Foundation and their conversations about sustainability, they wanted us to begin to think about what components of the TPIRC program might carry over once the grant has concluded, meaning that we would have to figure out how to finance it, of course, but there definitely are going to be parts of it, I'm sure, that churches and pastors and churches will want to, keep. The exact rubric that they are planning to use, I do not have that in my possession. I reached out to them to ask about it, but they were holding several workshops in multiple weeks. So I'm just assuming that they're just a little busy right now, and I will revisit that.
Okay, thank you.
The March 22nd meeting is open to everyone, right? Pastors, coaches, the lay people on the team?
we actually sent the information out just to the pastors and the lay team members.
Okay.
Were you a part of the other cohort meetings?
I was the one in February, and I mean, I am a coach, and I have 2 churches,
Mhm.
and they seem to be very different in the program in the way they are,
Mhm.
and
So,
and I don't remember whether I actually, one of the pastors shares more information with me,
mm,
and I found, I mean, one of my, from my father's scripture passage is, the measure you give is the measure you receive.
mm.
And I firmly feel that's part of this program. Well, it's part of life. One of my, how I see life. And so, like I said, it varies.
Mhm. So my question to you though is, were you a part of the cohort meetings in the past?
No, I've never been part of the
Oh,
cohort,
okay.
but
So,
um,
yeah.
I think it was just included in an email that was the pastor sent to the team
Mhm.
to become aware of your initiative in doing things.
Okay. So yes, I met with the coaches. There are facilitators, and I'm going to be meeting with them as well. But the meetings, even though we have no problem inviting the coaches, we just have to tighten up on the list of who exactly is still coaching and who wants to still be involved in it, because everybody that was trained is not necessarily wanting to continue. So you could certainly be invited to the meetings, but primarily the meetings were for the pastors and their teams. It's great that the pastor is sharing the information from their cohort meetings, because they also should have meetings in their churches with their teams as well. And so probably what you are receiving is something that will kind of help you know whether your coaching is working, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
An unrelated question.
Mm-hmm.
Before you were using Google for documents and things, and I have some facility with Google, but I've never taken that giant step to Outlook. And I noticed when I went to download some attachments from Mars from your email, that I had to put in my Microsoft through Microsoft. So I fortunately was able to do it. So I guess, is there any, as you put things in Outlook, is there anything the coaches need to know?
I will. So we've talked about this a little bit. It's a learning curve, because it's a little bit different, and there's different ways you can share things through Outlook. Kind of similar to with Google Drive, where sometimes you don't need to have a login and sometimes you do. So we are going to make sure going forward, and I've been working with Mars and Melody and Kathy to make sure that people are able to access those files without needing to have a Microsoft account.
And I'm going to let Mars speak about the coaches and information that they might need or we might need.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so like Sarah had said, there was just a learning curve on how to get things into Outlook and share those. But some of the things that were shared for coaches particularly were just the kind of the invoice section of how many sessions had been worked, and then also creating just a kind of like profiles for our coaches as well. So there is a form that is in Outlook that will be sent out again, I think, once we clean up some of the permission issues, so that you'll have access to all of those things.
And I would just like to add that one of the things that we were concerned about, as I mentioned, is that not all of the coaches that were trained were being utilized. And in some instances, it wasn't that, okay, let me just say this. The procedure in the past was to send the names of coaches to churches, to pastors, and I guess they would take it from there in terms of interviewing or deciding who was who. We want to make sure that the investment that was made in the coaches, because that was part of the Lilly monies, that it's beneficial or benefited by the pastors that it was meant to serve. So one of the things that we're asking is that the coaches send us a bio, just a paragraph, just a brief bio. The reason I think that would be helpful is because it at least gives the pastors an opportunity to see better who might work for them, who might be more compatible. Because I've heard from some pastors that the coach that they chose was not the one that worked for them. And there have been numerous changes from what I understand. So that was one of the things that we are asking for. Let us have a bio so that when we send the names out, we're not going to pick anybody. We're going to let the pastors pick who they would like to contact after that. And just case in point, I have a new church start. When I was selecting a coach, I needed someone who was familiar with starting a church. So that's the kind of information we want to make sure that people have access to.
Is there a process for changing a coach, either from a coach-pastor relationship, from either party to initiate that? I guess my coaching skills, I should ask, what is the process rather than is there?
Well, the process is real simple. People will let us know whether or not the relationship is working for them. I haven't had anybody yet tell me that. I have only heard that someone said that the particular coach that they had did not work for them. And I can't even remember who told me that. So it's on the to-do list to reach out to that pastor to see if we can possibly match them up with someone else. One other pastor obviously severed the coach-pastor ties last year and just simply said they did not want another coach. And so we honor that.
Melody, this is Mark Binder. I'm one of those who are just on the phone. I'm trying to find a way of phrasing this question gently, because I realize you've only been there since January. Mm-hmm. And I hope I managed to do what I'm trying to do. A lot of T-PIRC's problem is one of PR. It has not gotten good PR conference-wide. I've heard more. I'm not part of the program. I am part of the conference council and part of the vice chair personnel. Mm-hmm. The things I hear from pastors, mostly from pastors and reflecting their churches through them, have been negatives. And it's kind of like the program isn't really doing much. The program has wasted the money it's been given. Those are the kind of things I'm hearing being outside the program, to be quite frank. And I'm not saying any of those are true. What I'm saying and asking is, what are you doing to try to get rid of that impression that is out there?
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. And yes, I have heard some of that as well, but I've also heard some very good things about the program too. Let me just say this, I can't be anybody else but Melody Seaton. So with that said, I have some ideas of how we can make sure that people are aware of the program. And you said that you're on the conference console, so I'll be talking to you all this Saturday. And I have a very extensive report which details all of those things. But communication, we understood, was not, people felt communication was an issue. So we're going to try to combat that. As I mentioned earlier, when we sent out the emails to connect with churches to come to the cohort meetings, when we did not hear from them, we made phone calls to the churches. Once we have had this third meeting, we're going to reach out again to the churches, and we're going to mail things. We're going to use all means of communication. We're eventually going to have a newsletter, and it will come out quarterly with information about things primarily that are going on in churches, in the TPIRC churches. We will have a Facebook page. So those are a few of the ways that we hope to promote the program better. But let me also address the concern that people have had about the program not being beneficial. What I am kind of understanding from some of the people that we've spoken to is that maybe the understanding was that somebody was going to give a list of things to do that were somehow going to magically transform congregations. And that's really a tall order for anyone to do. I think that, again, going back to the topic for the summit, come, seek, and find. I think that there are people who have gotten some really great ideas of things to do in their churches, and whether they believe it came out of the TPIRC cohort meetings or not, I think sometimes when you place yourself in a position to be with others who have needs and you come seeking to receive something, you get ideas. And maybe those ideas were not directly mentioned, but you leave there and you say, I think I'm going to try something because of, So I'm sorry that people have felt that way. And I do not feel that the monies were wasted. I would really love for people to be supportive or try to be supportive, to sometimes we're the church. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. But just like when my parishioners bring me a lot of negative stuff, I try to find a way to turn that around to something good, to find the light in that. Because if we continue to pass that information around, that will taint any opportunity that Mars and Kathy and I have of trying to continue the program. So I'm aware of those things, and we are trying to address them as best we can.
Yeah, I think from what I've heard, your steps and attempts to increase communication by various means should help you a lot in that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I think we have time for one more question. Catherine, I saw your hand.
Just a quick thought. Melody, you mentioned a little earlier in your presentation that you were talking about having the coaches have people be able to pick their own coach. I am not in the program, by the way, just to make that clear. But I have been involved in other small group work, and I actually was in a cohort prior to TPIRC for clergy practice a clergy practice group. I would be cautious about that, and I would be cautious about advertising that, because I know one of the concerns before we got TPIRC up and running was that all of that there were 2 or 3 people who were so well known and so charismatic that everybody was hoping that was going to be their coach. And I think, you may run into that again, especially as you're in the midst of trying to rebuild a program that has had a couple of stumbles. No blame laid there wherever, but there's been some stumbles. So you might, I'm thinking I would want to make sure, if I was a coach, I'd want to make sure that the system was going to put a limit and let that be known that, no coach is going to be allowed to coach more than 3 churches or whatever, kind of thing. Make sure that people understand ahead of time that there's a limit on that, and maybe also talk up the fact that the person that you think may be the really good fit is not always the one who's going to bring you the greatest gifts. Sometimes it's the folks that don't think like you, or are that much different than you, or the ones that you don't know at all, maybe the ones that are bringing that gift. But I know early on there was some concern about folks being able to pick their own coach, and that was maybe the reason why there was assignments going on. And I just wanted to put that out there on the table as it came to mind. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I think the whole idea of TPIRC was an excellent one. And I know, like I said, I know there's been some stumbles, but I think it is definitely worth trying to save. And I think there's some really good gifts out there yet to be received from us having it. So thank you.
So let me just expound on that. From what I understood, the pastors were given 1 or 2 coaches to pick from. Okay. That still somehow managed to keep a large portion of the coaches without a pastor to coach. So my thought was, first of all, I did not want to have that responsibility of trying to decide who you might want to have as your coach. I think that is a personal decision. And so I thought, wow, what if we allow have the coaches create a paragraph bio, just a quick introduction to themselves, and give that to the pastors. Therefore, they can read and see for themselves. And I hear what you're saying. And yes, there would certainly be a limit, but I don't want to be the one to decide who coaches a pastor. I think that's a decision they need to make.
Understood. And I can understand in both ways with that. I just know that when you said that, I immediately had little bells ringing in the back of my mind, because I know there were a number of discussions about that before we got TPIRC up and running. And so hang on to your hat. Fingers crossed.
I'm trying.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining our all conference chat today. And thank you, Melody, Mars, and Kathy for your work with the conference as part of our TPIRC program and helping to re-envision that and bring new life to that program. Next week, we will be doing our last position overview, and that will be on our new transitional associate conference minister, Reverend Dr. Stephanie Perdue, who is our ACM with responsibilities for pastoral transitions. So that will be next Wednesday, same time, same link, 3 p.m. And until then, everybody have a wonderful week. Enjoy the sunshine and warmer weather, and we will see you next week.